I recognize the member for St. Peter. Before you start, would the deputy just take the chair for a short while?
Mr. Speaker, I bought a pair of nice gloves for you this morning.
Recognize the member for St. Peter.
Prime Minister, honorable member for St. John's, City West, monthly men and women of Barbuda, I thank the Lord bringing me here again this morning, and for the gift of life and the blessing of being able to serve the people of St. Peter's, the one from the Barbuda constituency of the Barbuda, and particularly the people of Barbuda. Mr. Speaker, I stand here this morning to make my contribution to the 2021 budget debate and the statements that the Prime Minister presented under the theme Maintaining a Healthy Nation and Restoring a Vibrant Economy presented in this Honourable House on January 28, 2021. I want to first of all compliment the Honourable Prime Minister, the member of the St. John's City West South, and also the Minister of Finance, honorable member for St. Philip's South, and all the Ministry of Finance officials for a wonderful job that they did, and for the delivery that the Prime Minister made in this honorable house on January 28, 2021. Mr. Speaker, I also would like to commend the Prime Minister for his outstanding leadership for leading the fight in Antigua and Barbuda's fight against the deadly COVID-19 pandemic that saved millions of lives around the world over the past 12 months. Mr. Speaker, as we all know, democracy is characterized by government, by the people, for the people, of the people, and the reasonable expectation of the citizenry of a country and all of your people is a government that is caring, a government that is innovative, loving, competent, transparent, accountable leadership and management, capable of delivering on the agreed principles and objectives for national growth and development. And that is what, Mr. Speaker, that this Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party is all about. And that is why I'm proud to wear this mask today. And I'm proud about the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party and exactly how I personally identify with my roots, with the Labour roots, and my political baptism into the Labour Party from my grandparents, the late Asot Michael, to my late father, Patrick Michael, and the union and the bond and the support of the party and the Antiguan Trades and Labour Union movement and the Michael family and the working class people of this country, going back to 1968, Mr. Speaker, when my family made a lot of sacrifices for this country and for the Antigua and Trades and Labour Union, and for the better of Antigua and Barbuda, and for the working class people of this country. Lest we not forget, it is a rich legacy and a rich history. So I'm no Johnny come lately. Let me make that pellucidly clear, as Sir Lester, our leader emeritus, would say. Today, Mr. Speaker, That is what continues to drive me. That is what gives me the fire in my belly, the passion. It is the passion for ensuring that the Labour Party sustains and strengthens itself to continue to move this country forward, that directs my assessment of the policy statements in the budget cycle. And that is why I'm here today, Mr. Speaker, to recommit myself to the Labour Party, its leadership, to all of the comrades, and to the rank and file of the Labour Party. Pardon me? I am here to recommit myself, my dedication, my loyalty to the leadership of the Labour Party, to the political leader, to the Prime Minister, to all my colleagues, to all the comrades, and to the rank and file of the Labour Party. Let that be clear. Let that be understood. Our work in the governance of this country, Mr. Speaker, must always be in sync with the transformational agenda of Papa Bird that empowered our people with better health care, better education when he built the Princess Margaret School and all of the schools, better income, land, housing, and overall a better quality of life. And we recall the historical purchase of the Syndicate Estate lands in 1967 by Vere Cornwall Bird for the people of this country. The thousands of acres of land when he walked into Royal Bank of Canada in England, when Sir Moody Stuart never thought that he could raise the funds, and he borrowed the monies to purchase the Syndicate Estate lands for the people of this country. He set the tone of what he wanted to do to empower his people with land tenure, land ownership, and education, running water, health for the people of this country. And in this regard, Mr. Speaker, through the budget cycles of the stewardship so far, I must say that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance has done well. Maybe you don't want me to hear me compliment him, but we may have our differences, but I must give Jacket. He has done very well, especially in distinguishing the people-centered accomplishments of our party from the failed anti-working class policies of the failed United Progressive Party in 10 years from 2004 to 2014, am I right, Mr. Weston? Where we had unemployment in this country nearly 30% or more. The context in which the 2021 budget statement falls, Mr. Speaker, it juxtaposes and it shows the progress of recent years of this Labour Party administration on the economic fundamentals, the pillars of the severe economic downturn for the past 12 months, occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic. The statement, the budget statement, sets out our government's policy, as all budget statements does. It is a blueprint. It is not etched in stone. It is a master plan. However, Mr. Speaker, moving on purposefully with the noble endeavor of building the very best that we want for Antigua and Barbuda, for our citizens, for all of the sons and daughters and children of this country, of our beloved nation. And Mr. Speaker, honestly, I welcome the restoration, the optimism over restoring economic growth, I quote, restoring economic growth and rebuilding employment, sustainability in the short and medium term from the Prime Minister's budget statement, with a strategy that aims in essence at building economic resilience, he said so in his budget statement, through sustainable and inclusive growth in tourism, agriculture, manufacturing, and construction. All of that is important. However, Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that government's economic restoration plan is also focusing on innovations in a variety of emerging economic engines. And the only question that I have to ask, Mr. Speaker, although I said I compliment the Prime Minister's initiatives, I compliment his budget speech, it is very visionary, very optimistic. But my question, Mr. Speaker, to the Prime Minister, is whether this approach, whether or not it is rooted in reality, given that COVID and all of the COVID-covered circumstances that the world faces. Because we do not live in an island state by ourselves in isolation. And all of the extenuating circumstances with flights that can be cancelled, bookings for hotels, cruise ships that have all good intentions of coming. And if the virus gets out of hand and the variant and they're not able, the big developed countries to deliver the vaccines and roll them out in a timely fashion and fast enough. Here's a small, vulnerable island state. We have no control over that. Absolutely none. So I caution the 2021 budget statement. It looks to the future with confidence, undisturbed by the reality of growth restrictions imposed on the global economy by the coronavirus pandemic, sir. And in so doing, it features some unrealistic economic growth measures that we are likely to set up false hope, in my honest opinion. False hope, sir, of objectives that we pursue, but we may never attain them. And this is my point. Do not fool the people. Do not say things that we cannot or might not be able to achieve. And at this time of uncertainty, sir, and economic decline all over the world, which of the investors named by the Prime Minister, sir, let us be honest with ourselves, are going to commit the millions and billions of dollars that the budget says that they will spend on construction of the Antigua and Barbuda hospitality projects in this budget year? Mr. Speaker,
Honorable member, the technicians have said that your mic is giving trouble. So would you just, no, not it's on, but it's giving some trouble. They're working on it. So they're not hearing you properly. MP Brown, let the expert.
it works now, sir? That's good now, sir? Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry? All is well?
The point
Proceed.
that I'm making, sir. We cannot be saying, Mr. Speaker, in all honesty in the budget, that the disruption to our economy will not be corrected overnight, which is true. That's a factual statement. And then suggest that investments will miraculously move ahead with a construction spend of over $1 billion in this COVID control year like that. Let us be realistic. Let us stay within the walls of the Labour Party pragmatism and practicality that have served us well throughout and over the years. Yes, sir, the pandemic will be over one day. It will not last forever, with God's help and with our praise to the Almighty. Yes, people around the world will travel again. The tourism industry will rebound. Yes, Mr. Speaker, lost jobs will return to our people. Yes, the economy will rebound. It has to. And with a good government and with a resilient people, yes, there's hope. But, Mr. Speaker, there are some exceedingly difficult years ahead of us. And let us be pragmatic and realistic about it, and make no mistake about it. Many, many challenges are ahead of us, and fooling ourselves with tall tales of government promises that cannot be fulfilled adds absolutely no value, Mr. Speaker, and it gets us nowhere fast. Mr. Speaker, the challenge before us is to reset this economy with the lessons we've learned and the real opportunities for balance, sustainable growth that have emerged from the coronavirus pandemic, and the lessons, sir, that we can learn from the pandemic. We have a high rate of recovery from COVID-19, and our rates of COVID infection and death are among the lowest in the Caribbean region, and we achieved this by keeping it real. And the government needs to be commended. And the opposition, instead of playing petty, disruptive politics, needs to come on board in unity with the government and to assist and stop criticizing for the sake of criticism. This is not an issue to be made a political football. It is an issue of lives and death and health. And if you see the government is doing something wrong, or you feel that the government can improve, you share your ideas, Mr. Leader of the Opposition, in all fairness to you. You don't refuse to sit on a committee that the Prime Minister invited you to. You're shirking your responsibility, your fiduciary duty, not just to your constituents, but you're the leader of the opposition. And do not let nobody else set you up. You have a promising political future ahead of you as a young politician. And if you're called upon for national service, rise to the occasion. So, Mr. Speaker, I would say this, although, as I said, we have had a high rate of recovery from COVID-19 and our rates of COVID infection and death are among the lowest in the Caribbean region, we achieved this by keeping it real. But, Mr. Speaker, I must tell you that I'm extremely concerned that in the last 14 days, the numbers who have tested positive is alarming. It's alarming for all of us. I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, you are concerned. As an elderly gentleman, you have to be. My mother is concerned. The young must be concerned also, not just the elderly. In fact, and I stand corrected, we have an estimated 157 new cases within the last 14 days from the dashboard from the government. That is cause for great concern. 157 new cases in the last 2 weeks. In my humble opinion, Mr. Speaker, I think that the Cabinet needs to seriously examine whether or not the country should again go on a complete lockdown. I'm not here, as you said, Honourable Member for All Saints West, to be popular. I'm here to offer my unvarnished, to use your word, advice to the Cabinet. I don't sit in the Cabinet, but it's my duty. And I know that the Cabinet is making arrangements in the Ministry of Health to receive sufficient number of vaccines into the country soon. And I feel as soon as the government is able to receive a sufficient number of vaccines to inoculate most of the population, then the Cabinet should seriously reconsider closing down the country. And I say close it down entirely. Yes, it will have economic hardships. Yes, it will have disruption to the economy, to the government finances. Mr. Prime Minister, I'm cognizant of all of that. I'm cognizant that you have to pay civil servants and find money to pay debt and so forth. But if the rates continue like this, you have to look at it carefully. And I'm suggesting when you do have enough vaccines into the country, and you are able to inoculate enough of the population, then you can reopen after 14 days or 21 days, whatever the authorities and the experts advise, and then the population will be more resilient against the virus. But, Mr. Speaker, of course I'm going to encourage them to take the vaccine. And the other thing I want to say, and I'm not here to fluff up anybody, but I have no idea, and I got a call this morning from a reputable attorney at law. In fact, one of my advisors, he said I must come and attack the Prime Minister today for taking the job. That the Prime Minister should not take the vaccine before the frontline workers. But what nonsense is that? Other world leaders, even other CARICOM leaders, he's the head of state. He must lead by example and take it first. To encourage the population to take it. So Boris Johnson didn't take it, President Biden didn't take it, Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves wasn't the first to take it. I mean, why are we so in Antigua, paranoid, and everything wants to play politics? He's the head of state, and to show encouragement, and to show that he's a brave person and it's good for us, he took it. What is wrong with that? But, Mr. Speaker, instead of chasing improbable, let me get back. In terms of the budget, where the Prime Minister says the list of projects, US $2.5 billion, and I'm reading from the statement, the PLH Ocean Club in Barbuda, they're going to spend $130 million in 2021. and provide over 400 jobs. The US 45 million renovation expansion project exists in Red Salcia and the hotel by Sunwing. How probable is that? Stephen Hunt is laying off people down at Royalton right now. Laying off people because the hotel does not have the capacity, and you know that, Minister, Honorable Minister of Tourism. Then you have US $25 million airport Marriott with $10 million to be spent. And I really hope that gets off. We do need an airport hotel. US $100 million beach club at Fort James with Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, of which US $20 million to be spent in 2021. That's an excellent project at Fort James. However, Royal Caribbean stock went down, I think, from $130-something to nearly $29. I'm not sure that they're able to spend $1 this year. I'm not saying that the project is not a good project. I'm not saying that it will not get off the ground, but how probable that it will happen this year? US $20 million Dulcina project in Barbuda. US $3 million to be spent this year. Well, that will probably get off the ground, because that's the Prime Minister's baby. US $80 million in Callaloo Hotel project at Morris Bay, with US $15 million to be spent in 2021. I don't know who's going to spend that, if it's the government going to spend that, because the Sheikh, whatever his name is, Sheikh Tarari, he pulled out of the financing. But I know the government is a shareholder, so the government will have to find the money. All I'm saying, sir, instead of chasing the improbable, Mr. Speaker, let us focus, for example, on maximizing the potential for increased agricultural production. That the 2021 budget hopes will create jobs, income, foreign exchange, earnings, and food security. Let us focus on those things, which we're doing. And I compliment the government and the Ministry of Agriculture and the PM for even going into farming and others. I hope he will give some jobs to the people of Pierce Village for his farm up at Betty's Hope, so that we can also benefit from his farm and my constituents. Let us ensure, Mr. Speaker, that the US $20 million agro-industrial park in Antigua and Barbuda gets off this ground this year. That is an important project. Honorable Member for St. Mary's South, Minister of Agriculture. That's very important, because our post-COVID recovery needs the broiler farm, the slaughterhouse, the feed production, the feed mill, the vegetable farm, the training center. We need that this year. Those are tangible, meaningful projects that we need to diversify this economy, to go into agriculture. Not pie in the sky, foreign investors that are not going to put their money in. In manufacturing, the Prime Minister spoke, Mr. Speaker, and I support the plan to advance in his budget year projects that in budget 2020, because of the coronavirus, did not come off. Like the Caribbean, the $20 million Caribbean plant, and US $5 million buoy project at Antigua Distillery. We need these manufacturing jobs, because Antigua has no manufacturing. Leavitt Paints closed down. All of the industrial park at Coolidge, at Lester Bird and Hugh Marshall developed in the late 70s and 80s. They're non-existent no more. So we need to start diversifying the economy into manufacturing. So that is those are two good projects. In our struggles with the social impact, Mr. Speaker, and the economic difficulties of COVID-19, we lived the reality, sir, that we're all equal. We have to understand, never mind race, culture, religion, ethnicity, politics, occupation, status, presidents, prime ministers, no matter who you are, rich, poor, black, white. We took the fight to this deadly virus by strengthening our discipline for cleanliness as next to godliness, washing our hands, practicing good respiratory hygiene, wearing our masks, keeping our minds and bodies and surroundings clean and free from impurities, and keeping our distance, social distance. And I wanted at this juncture, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, to thank all of those sacrificing on the front line of the fight against this pandemic. The doctors, the nurses, sir, the healthcare administrators, the environmental, the healthcare workers, the police, the soldiers, the caregivers, the volunteers, all of those who have sacrificed and put their lives and carried out their responsibilities professionally, lovingly, caringly, I also want to thank the countries, the friendly countries and international organizations who gave so willingly to assist us and provided assistance in our time of need. They should be commended, sir, and I would like to thank them. Because our battle, Mr. Speaker, with COVID-19 brought us face to face with the extent that materialism, sir, has encouraged a lack of appreciation for the value of healthy food, clean water, comfortable clothes, proper hygiene, proper shelter, resilient shelter. And so let us rethink, sir, our priorities. Let us rebuild and renew. Let us renew home and family and love and be our brother's keeper. Let us learn from this pandemic. Let us ensure that our economic policy prescriptions no longer neglect these foundation pillars for successful lives and citizens in our country, sir. Lives that we must live in love with each other. Health, wellness, and happiness. Those are the pillars of success of a good country. To love your neighbor as yourself. God's commandment. Mr. Speaker, while it is an area in which we have made some gains since 2014, the revenue performance of central government needs to improve at a much faster pace and a much faster rate, Mr. Junior Minister of Finance. The clear disappointment here is that while our economy has grown steadily and our economic activity, Mr. Speaker, has been robust, tax revenues has not been rising in line with economic growth. And as the Prime Minister says, the average tax to GDP ratio in the ECCU, the Economic Union that is roughly 20%. In other words, governments in neighboring islands are collecting 20 cents on every single dollar for the total value of goods and services. But in Antigua and Barbuda, we only collect 16 cents on the GDP dollar in 2020. So we are undertaxed. Clearly we are undertaxed, sir. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious issue, which I intended to address in the 2020 budget debate, but I was denied the opportunity of doing so. And the 2020 budget statement, if you go back to it, sir, I have it here. It underlined the point, and I quote from it: our tax revenues are not at the level where every principle of finance and economics suggests they should be in an economy that is growing as impressively as ours, end of quote. And I fully agree with that. With the measures proposed to optimize tax compliance, improve revenue collection, and strengthen the capacity of the Inland Revenue Department to investigate and stamp out tax evasion to reduce tax liability. But, Mr. Speaker, I disagree that our underperforming revenue collection relative to our ECCU partners and against the interests of economic sustainability is merely about unfair and unjust behavior of those who do not pay their taxes. It goes deeper than that, Mr. Speaker. Much deeper than that. Because in Antigua and Barbuda, there's no personal income tax. Absolutely no tax on interest earned on savings in the banks. No inheritance tax. You know that as a lawyer. No debt duties. That was abolished years ago. No capital gains on tax when locals sell property and they make a profit. In other countries, you have capital gains, capital appreciation. Excuse me. But in Antigua and Barbuda, sir, we have a very generous and overly abused system of tax concessions to investors in job-creating, profit-making business operations with periods of time well in excess of what is needed to get these establishments firmly on their feet. Mr. Speaker, I say to the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, the Junior Minister of Finance, to take an honest look at these endless tax concessions to monopoly operations, operating and providing essential services that people is simply transfer hundreds of millions of dollars, sir, from their limited spending power to the government into private wealth creation machines. If Western's oil company can pay their fair share of taxes, why can't these others pay? If ECAP can pay, state insurance can pay, why can't these others pay, sir? So this massive tax giveaway is by far the most significant area of revenue lost to central government, which government itself facilitates for the benefit of a privileged few, while placing the blame for underperforming revenue collection on ordinary citizens to business owners, trapped in the struggle to make ends meet. In other words, we're giving away millions and millions to the rich who can afford to pay, and the poor man is being squeezed. This is not fair, it is not just, this is not right, Mr. Speaker. This feeding the greedy and starving the needy can only be sustained to the detriment of the people and the citizens of this country. And the ability of the government to meet the facilitation and maintenance costs of healthcare, of education, of tourism marketing, of building roads, of infrastructure. And you know what I'm speaking about. I'm not going to call any names in here today. The Prime Minister mentioned in his budget statement, about the super class, and the super class cannot continue. They know who they are. The super class that the PM mentioned in his budget statement cannot continue, Mr. Speaker. You helped to fight them. You were the lawyer also at one time. You were the lawyer at one time, helping to fight to break down that super class. I'll call no name, and I commend you. You know who I'm speaking about, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, let me move on. I totally agree that we must all pay our fair share. I'm not encouraging citizens not to pay a fair share of taxes. We all must be responsible citizens, especially given the fact that Antigua and Barbuda is the least tax CARICOM country. But paying no tax at all on billions of dollars by some in profits through decades of tax holidays and duty-free concessions from the government, I'm saying that that is not fair. That is not equitable. That is not right. It is unfair to the native population. And we cannot continue like this. Yes, I've read it. I've read it, but I hope we are not just going to talk the talk, but we're going to walk the walk. I quoted, I said the PM said that the super class cannot continue. And I'm coming to you too, because you have to have the empowerment of the people at Public Works too, and not just a chosen few. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister, I'm sure is true to his word and pure in his intentions regarding his philosophies that he have mentioned since 2014 of entrepreneurial socialism and empowerment capitalism. However, there must not be cliches. There must be real and tangible policies that permeate the entire spectrum of the Antigua and Barbuda society. Look, man, we set up the Economic Development Fund for young people. I have a constituent, Mr. Dale Gardner, who applied for a gym, passed by Mr. Garfield Joseph, passed by the board, Ms. Joy Dublin. I spoke to her. The bureaucracy is taking too long. 6 months now is approved by the board. And the cabinet is sitting on it. I don't even know if it reached cabinet up to now. Up to yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I spoke to Ms. Joy Dublin. We got to fast track these projects. We can't just put the $5 million into the EDF, set up a board, set up technicians, analyze them, and we sit on them. I know that you have approved a lot so far, but I'm saying fast track it some more. Young people in this pandemic want to go into business, we're encouraging them, fast track the process. Why, if the board approves it and you set up a board and you have technicians, I don't even see why you need to go to cabinet. If you have Mr. Garfield Joseph that you employ to head it up, he's your, like your CEO, and Mr. Speaker, you have a board, why make it go to cabinet? In my view, and I may be unpopular by saying so, then I think it's political. We're choosing who we give. We're not choosing on merit of the project. Cabinet cannot micromanage everything. That's why you stay in cabinet 8 and 10 hours and you all get tired. And you have to eat so much. Anyway, I'm glad to see that you and Comrade Attorney General have lost a lot of weight. Hope you keep it up. No, I actually put back on some. But what about, Mr. Speaker, the empowerment for the entrepreneurial dreams and the capitalist ventures of all the indigenous black people in this country? And the businesses who still happen to be more than 70% of our population? Mr. Speaker, I see Syrians building sidewalks, Syrians building buildings. What do you mean, which part? renovating government buildings with the excuse that they're providing credit. Some of them don't know nothing about construction. They're not in the construction field. We used to accuse William and Daniel of the same thing. We're doing worse. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, the practice of dishing out duty-free concessions and building materials to multimillionaires and billionaires from other countries to construct luxury residences is wrong. Those people at Jumbi Bay and Mill Reef, it's time those concessions stop. They should not be getting duty-free on construction, property tax, when they sell the houses. I don't care how much millions of dollars the Honourable Minister, the Honourable, my good friend, the member for St. John's, Rural North, get up and say Jumbi Fund give. Yeah, happy they give back. I called upon them after Hurricane Irma to set up a fund of $50 million. Mr. Weston laughed at me and said, oh, we have $500 million from the World Bank. Where's the $500 million? Must say Jumbi Bay, Mill Reef, all of them houses must stop, get duty-free, millions and millions and millions of dollars. The cabby program is a good program, but you don't give furniture to poor people for the cabby program. So why we must give furniture and furnishings and everything to Jumbi Bay and Mill Reef and Perns Point and Jolly Harbour? And my dear friend who bought my house for millions of dollars. My Prime Minister spoke about it. He's building a house for $70 million. $70 million! How much he pay me? A lot of millions. But out of those millions, I had to pay back a lot of Labour Party debts. I didn't want to sell. I was forced to. Anyway, what I'm saying, they must all pay. They can afford to pay. The time has come to cut them off. Mill Reef, Jumbi Bay, all of them big residential homes. Or give them 50% at least. But not everything, including ABST, everything. Property tax. No, man, come on, Mr. Weston. You want to save money, you want to pay salaries, you want to pay debt? Well, I hope you're going to do that. You say you're cutting the RRC to 50%. But I disagree. That it should be across the board except you say for essential services and international organizations. I don't see why the Prime Minister should limit himself, because you may have a huge investment project down the road and they may demand the RRC. It may be a deal breaker. I still feel the Minister of Finance should at all times have the discretion. But he's limiting himself now to 50%. No, man, you said the Attorney General said he's coming here and PM said, I think May the 15th will be effective, that the RRC will be cut to 50%, capped. We also have, Mr. Speaker, private companies providing services to state-owned corporations under monopoly arrangements with tax holidays and generous duty-free concessions. And they're untendered, no-bid contracts. They came here to Parliament. You know what I'm speaking about. I'm not blaming this government, because even the opposition of the day at the time, Baldwin Spencer, the Honorable Baldwin Spencer, the late Donald Halstead, Bill McDaniel, all of them voted for it. And what they pay? Nothing. Yield profits of millions and millions of dollars. And what is their share of taxes? Zero. So we have to reconsider those contracts. We have owners of properties doing business with government on special arrangement, exempt them from even the maintenance responsibility. You know, Mr. Minister of Public Works, have to spend millions of dollars a year. I have never seen a lease where the landlord, Mr. Speaker, is responsible for the maintenance of buildings. Never! It is wrong, outrageous, that the Ministry of Public Works have to be called upon. You walk into the Prime Minister's office, the air conditioner doesn't work. The Parliament building, you have to maintain it. All the government buildings, the roof leaking, water that come down on us. It's not right. And we are paying over $1.2 million a month. Mr. Speaker, and we are stuck with it for 30 years as an act of Parliament. We have to call in these citizens and say to them they're patriotic citizens or not. They love the country or they don't love the country. Because they will sue you. It's an act of Parliament. You can't just unilaterally change it. And it will have serious legal repercussions. We have the case also, I wanted to say it last year, I mentioned it to the Minister, the member for St. Mary's South, and also the then Minister of Agriculture, where you all have given tax concessions and government lands that you've leased, over 110 acres of land, to one single businessman to disempower nearly 90 farmers. How can that be right? I'm not calling no name, man. You know what I'm speaking about. How can that be right? Say, well, they're going to plant coconuts and they're going to plant this and plant that. No, they're planting everything. So instead of them buying the lettuce and the tomatoes and the cucumbers and all of that from nearly 90 farmers that were spending nearly $600,000 a month, the government is facilitating this businessman with a lease of 90 acres or 110 acres, 90 up there, and another 10 or 15, and disempowering 90 local black indigenous farmers in this country. What? Oh, you don't know it happening? Oh, you all put a stop to it? Pardon me? Oh, it's inactive, good. Well, it's after. I say that last year, you all rented or leased, the cabinet made a decision to lease 90 acres of land up in St. Philip's North and another 10 acres by the greenhouse that was given by USAID to a businessman. Whether it went through or the lease was not signed is a different thing. I even spoke to the Prime Minister about it, right in here. And he took out his pen and pencil and tried to justify and said, why it would be good because we cannot do enough produce, our local farmers. Right there. No. I'm not right next to you and you took out your pen and pencil and said the local farmers cannot produce enough. Move on. Come on, that's a fact, man. I'm speaking about Rob Barrett. Okay, please. Could you all stop it? After I raise my concern about it. Mr. Speaker, I move on. In terms of the good governance, the Prime Minister also needs to deal with what appears to be, and I say so fearlessly, I have to say it, because you got up in here, Mr. Prime Minister. Look.
The member will stick to debate in the budget, please. And the other members will allow him to make his contribution.
Pardon me, sir?
Please allow him to make his contribution, and please speak to the budget and not to personal interrivalry.
I can speak about it. Yes, I can. Because you in your Mr. Speaker, in his speech, said that we have quantity surveyors at Public Works and everything is done properly. When you have two contractors that have replaced the Crown agents in England, and they don't have no quantity surveying done, and no bids, and no tenders. None. They don't have no bids or no tenders. And it cannot be right. It cannot be right. Whether they produce good work or not good work.
Honourable member.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please debate the budget and stop personal references, which under the standing orders is... No, just listen to me, please. Continue your presentation and please stop cross-talking two other members because it is not permitted under the rules. That's all I'm saying. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. But the Prime Minister is attacking me personally and my integrity and imputing improper motives and saying about I have no moral authority to speak about good governance. And you see nothing wrong with that. But I continue, sir. I'm on tone, I'm on the budget, and I'm not going to let the Prime Minister ruffle my feathers today. Absolutely not. Mr. Prime Minister, I say all shall eat and all shall rise. Be true to your budget and to your words and walk the walk and not just talk the talk. Mr. Speaker, I also listened to the member for Barbuda in the budget debate passionately yesterday. The member for Barbuda. He was calling down the grace of God on the Prime Minister for his government's development initiatives in Barbuda. I will say this, Mr. Speaker. Trevor Walker, the honorable member for Barbuda, he loves Barbuda. He loves the people of Barbuda. But so does Gaston Brown. I am not here to cause no contention with the Prime Minister, or to ruffle his feathers this morning, or to have no personal animosity against him. I am saying that so does Gaston Brown love the people of Barbuda, not just you. I had the opportunity to travel with him, and call me a liar again, Mr. Speaker, over 15 times to Barbuda before he came, thank you, sir, before he became Prime Minister. And he endeared himself to the people of Barbuda. And the people of Barbuda had a passion for him, and so did he. And he really, truly wants to develop Barbuda. No other Prime Minister, not VC Bird, as far as VC Bird was concerned, left them alone. Leave them. Leicester, don't interfere with their land. Never interfere with their land. Leave them. And nothing happened in Barbuda for years. Nothing. However, I had the privilege, as I said, to travel to Barbuda with him. And he loves and he shares with the people of Barbuda. His love and his sharing of the state resources is real, it's tangible, Mr. Speaker. Airport, roads, buildings, shelters, development, projects, Robert De Niro, PLH. He wants to develop it. Green economy, renewable energy. I can go on and on and on, Mr. Speaker. I didn't realize yesterday that you're also a descendant of Barbuda. I was very pleased to hear that. But I understand the passion of the representative of Barbuda in this honorable house. But in the cause of developing Barbuda and creating a better life for the people of Barbuda, the member for St. John City West is not his enemy. The Prime Minister is not your enemy. He's not. The government of Antigua, the central government and the Attorney General is not your enemy. There are differences of opinion. And there will always be differences of opinion. But none of them so serious that it cannot be resolved through diplomacy, through negotiation, in which both honorable gentlemen are skilled practitioners. I mean, Mr. Prime Minister, with all great respect, you got to take the lead. You are the Prime Minister, not him. Yes, he's the elected member for Barbuda. You got to call in the council. Call him into the office again. Go over there. Have a town hall meeting. If you get a few stone like Leicester Bird got in 1971, take them. And they're not going to stone you. And you know they're not going to stone you. But you got to take the lead, Mr. PM. Sending guns and soldiers over to Barbuda is not the answer. And you suing the Barbuda central government and wasting all this money in litigation is not the answer. And going all the way up to Privy Council and every time appealing and blocking projects and running investors. It is ludicrous. And the modernization of the Barbuda economy, Mr. Speaker, is as dear to the heart of Gaston Brown as it is to the hearts of Trevor Walker, the members of the Barbuda Council, and to the people of Barbuda. So the suggestion that Barbuda can return to farming and fishing at this point in advancement of global affairs is unfortunate. And the threat of secession from this unitary state over arguments and expensive court battles between the Brown administration and the Central Council of Barbuda is regrettable. All of this litigation must stop. And the matter will not be relegated to second-class status as well as the environmental concerns. If the environmental concerns, Mr. PM, and if they're real, and if they're tangible and not frivolous, we have to address them. You have to address them as a realistic government. If you have to sit with the developers, PLH, and tell them you have to tweak your plans and change them to satisfy what the international people are saying, I'm not an environmentalist or no technician, but then you'll have to do it. But you can't just want to just kill the project and just want to take the government to court. It is wrong. Who do you think you're hurting in the end of the day? You're hurting your own people, the quality of lives that the government is trying to improve for you.
Honourable member has 10 minutes to the hour.
I started at 15:15, sir.
The honourable member has 10 minutes to the hour.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, all I'm saying that both gentlemen need to put their differences aside and engage in a mature, humane manner for the good of Barbuda, for the good of Antigua, and most importantly, for the good of Antigua and Barbuda. And I know that you all can do it. I now turn, Mr. Speaker, to the neglect of St. Peter's, which is so dear to my heart. I turn to the long-standing, ongoing neglect of the constituents of St. Peter's and the call for funds to be allocated, sir, in this budget year to address the pressing infrastructure, healthcare, sporting facilities, and other critical needs of my people. Hansard records me in 2019, Mr. Speaker, in this House, in my presentation of the deplorable condition that I said, it is the worst. After 10 years of victimization, neglect under the UPP administration, where my people were the first to be sent home from the Port Authority by the Honorable Wilmer Daniel, no roads, no sporting facilities that I had to go into my pocket. And yes, Mr. Speaker, my same Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, for over 5 years, have done the same. The same St. Peter's, where we have not lost a single election since 1951. And yes, Mr. Speaker, the same St. Peter's whose ABLP delegates voted at 2 conventions to make the Honorable Prime Minister the leader of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, and voted unanimously, except one person who's sitting in the gallery. What justifies, Mr. Speaker? I want to know honestly what justifies the discrimination against them. When will they receive their just deserts from the public resources in this parliamentary democracy? After all, the constitution was neglected by Joseph Myers, Uncle Joe, for 25 years. Because Papa Bird say, oh, he will win a seat. Honorable Weston tell me this morning, what are you worried about? You'll win your seat again. The Prime Minister told me last election, you don't need no votes, you'll win your seat. It was neglected under the Honorable Longford Jeremy for 16 years. You are more than me now. And now is neglected under Asot Michael, Mr. Speaker. St. Peter's has produced a number of outstanding citizens who have served Antigua and Barbuda well with distinction, and you know that. James Grayman in triple jump, Mr. Speaker. Pelton and Darrell Greenaway in football. Radful Hiddle, the former Attorney General, your colleague, Mr. Speaker. Collie Gardner, the former General Manager of Mill Reef Club. All of those notable citizens. 3 permanent secretaries from the Western family. Eden, Cordell, and our beloved Choco Lennox Weston, who is our honorable member now for St. Philip's South and Minister of Public Works. All of them, and not to forget your sister, Teacher Weston. They've all made St. Peter's proud. So come on, member for St. Philip's South. Come on, man, you never string berry in Param. You're a well-loved son of the town. You used to teach me and my 2 sisters at Sunnyside. Patience, you're telling me since 2014. Patience. Patience! You say you're coming and you're coming, but hurry up and come. Walk fast. Now you have lost the weight. You tell me 104 pounds. You're part of our family, man. You're part of our family. You taught Teresa and you taught Sarai, you taught me. And you taught me political science. Don't forget that. You're the Minister of Finance. Give a little help to your constituency, man. They tell me you're afraid to even walk the main road now. You have to drive around the other road. You have to help us, Choco. Come on, man. You're helping everybody else. How do you think I feel, Mr. Speaker? I see concrete roads all over. New candidates to just come. My neighbors string berry in the Labour Party through my bowels. We welcome everybody. We are all-inclusive party. But I want to tell you, perhaps only 5 members in this honorable house are true-born Labour. True-born. The Honorable Gaston Brown, the Honorable Cutie Benjamin, Samantha Marshall, Choco Weston, Asot Michael. Right here. Robin was APP. Mark's father was APP. Your brother was the deputy chairman of APP. And St. Mary's South, his brother, Honorable Malvin Joseph was PLM. Chet was PLM. Melford was ONDP. You were UPP. Darrell was PAP, UPP. Londell is PLP. You were ALP. So, Mr. Speaker, all I'm saying that I stand for the economic transformation capable of generating opportunities to allow constituents to do better for themselves, their families, and their loved ones. We have a plan. Take care of me, don't worry. And you keep promising, Mr. Speaker, we have a plan I'm going to share with you. The PM knows about it. That was done by the OAS, the Development of Tourism Infrastructure, Parham Harbour, Antigua Master Development Plan. Oh, God, since 1995, Washington, D.C., Lester Bird commissioned it. Oh, my God, you were working up at the World Bank, too. You know about it. And it's a great tourism master plan, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Prime Minister is fully aware of the study that was done on the Lester Bird, of the complete refurbishment and the modernization, as Parham was the first town in Antigua and Barbuda. And this study, Mr. Speaker, provided a comprehensive plan to develop the waterfront, marinas, duty-free shopping facilities, arts and crafts, historical buildings, and we're going to Willoughby Bay to develop what can be done right in Parham, where you have more traffic. Yes, Willoughby Bay has more landmass, and I'm not against the plan for Willoughby Bay. No, I'm not. I'm saying that Willoughby Bay has more land, and it's a good project. We will do both, but great. When we will start it, the shopping facilities, it's called for arts, crafts, historical buildings like the market, the post office, the police station, even the St. Peter's Anglican Church, sir, an Antiguan landmark. We've been sitting on this national responsibility to develop a first-class tourist attraction that we can do, and the international business community for too long, sir. It's time to get the job done, Choco. And you must fight. I'm no longer in cabinet. You sit there. You got to fight for the people, not just for the people of St. Peter's, but for all of Antigua. If you can spend nearly $30 million cutting the sides of the roads every year, I don't know what the figure is this year, over 30 million. Can't you allocate $3 million to start this master plan, Mr. Weston, honorable member? Please, thank you, I love you now. Get some friendly, I always loved you, I love you more. But I don't want just words. And I want the roads, and I want the basketball courts, because I'm not going back in my pocket to spend millions and millions of dollars to grade roads like last election and buy all in. Okay, good, you can do it. And put lights and lampposts and order. Mr. Yearwood, my dear beloved friend and mentor for St. Philip's North, knows that I have to pay for lights and bring them in. And when I bring them in here, people tell me, oh, you can't decide which lamppost to put them on. That's politics you're playing. And I pay for my own lights. Imagine that. Come on. You have a responsibility. They pay taxes like everybody else. The roads, we have craters in painters. In Lightfoot, when rain come, they can't even travel with their cars. Cause trees growing in roads, Mr. Speaker, in Vernon's. When, oh God, when will we get the help? When you all decide to put a new candidate up there, I'm very happy that the Honourable Prime Minister went and took a personal tour, and I would like to thank him. I really would like. He went with Comrade Bubbler, and I would like to thank him. Although he did not invite me as the sitting representative, at least he went, and he gave a commitment. So, Mr. PM, I would like to thank you, sir. You can say you're welcome, you know. I tell you happy birthday yesterday, you don't even answer me. I want to again tell you happy birthday and wish you God's blessings. He knows I always love him. And he always loves me. So he always keep out.
Honourable members, hour is up.
Pardon me, sir?
The honourable members, hour is up.
Can I have 10, 15 more minutes? Can I, with the permission, have 15 more minutes, sir?
15 more minutes.
I can?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You're so gracious today, Mr. Speaker.
I just apply the rules.
And I love you too, Mr.
I apply the rules to everybody the same way.
I love you, Mr.
Everybody gets 15 minutes.
I
more.
only have love in my heart for everybody.
But not a minute more than 15.
Mr. Speaker, the constituency of St. Peter's is the bedrock of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party. And I'm humbly appealing to my dear beloved Prime Minister. Yet again, we may have our differences, but don't take it out on Asot Michael. Deliver the necessary infrastructure works, the healthcare facilities and the sporting facilities. They're sons and daughters of this land who pay taxes like everyone else. They deserve their fair share of the national pie. We don't even have a clinic in Pears for over 6 years. And this cosmetic changes that the honourable member for St. Mary's North come up there and put some galvanizing, do a little painting in Parliament for the clinic. It's a disgrace. Total disgrace. And the member for St. Philip's North, his constituents come to the Parliament clinic and use it. I had to bring in 15,000 masks, sir, during the pandemic when it started, to also share with his constituents who come to my clinic. I see all kind of other representatives that just come. My good friend from St. John's Wood North, big one from the Chinese. You deserve yours. St. Philip's South, St. Philip's North. I'm talking about St. John's Wood North, my dear beloved brother. Big one from the Chinese. The other one, big one from the Chinese. Well, the Prime Minister, he's the Prime Minister, so functions officio. Pass and question Pitney first. But they're like hospitals. And I can't even get a little veranda, Mr. Speaker, for my old people to sit on. No blood machine, no nothing, no strips, look your nod. And where pairs, people must go. I have to send them to Belazir, to Dr. John, to St. Gupta, to private doctors every week, thousands of dollars out of my pocket. It is outrageous. You just be down trial and see up to last week that I had to pay $3,000 to Dr. Walwyn. $3,000 to Dr. Walwyn, another one $1,800 to Belazir. Every week, Mr. Speaker, I spend over $10,000, no exaggeration, on medical care. Okay, I don't speak about what I do, but let me tell you something. Let me say this to you. It is not right, and you are right, sir, the $2,000 can't do nothing. Whether I have money or not, $2,000 can't do nothing for a constituency representative. And we must be bold and increase it. What? Because some of us have money? So poor Samantha did have none. Poor Michael, what Randall to do?
I don't have none.
What is the member for St. John's Wood West with such a huge constituency? How many people you have? 5,000? Jesus Christ.
I don't have any.
What is Minister Maria Brown to do with a big constituency? Go and thief? Go and pocket some of the money from the housing? What you going to do with $2,000? What is Dean Jones going to do with that big constituency like that? Come on, man. You have a small constituency in a Robin. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, let me move on. I'm just saying to the Honorable Prime Minister, I only have 15 minutes, please don't take away my time. My esteemed leader, with the greatest respect, Mr. Prime Minister, have been saying for a number of years, I have a conscience, and injustice is injustice. The people of St. Peter deserve a lot better than they're being forced to endure, and they've been taken for granted by the party. I'm going to repeat it. They've been taken for granted by the party. Now in government that they've faithfully supported for more than 6 decades. And it's not right. It is not fair, sir. It makes a total mockery of representation in a parliamentary democracy. I'll say no more on that. In closing, Mr. Speaker, I will be remiss of me if I did not make these few comments. And I say so fearlessly. I note the high-handed, undemocratic, unchristian moves within the leadership of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party to replace me as the representative for the St. Peter's constituency in this honourable House, Mr. Speaker. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, today, that no one person can determine your national worth. No one person. The people determines that. Our jobs as servants of the people, as politicians, is to change their lives for the better, to improve the standard and quality of their lives. That is our jobs as politicians when we go into politics. See, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is again imputing improper motives and you're not allowing him. He should rise above that. That is how petty he is. But I will continue. Mr. Speaker, what I am concerned about is what Antigua and Barbuda needs. When I look in the mirror and I go to sleep at night, I go to sleep with peace in my heart, knowing that I have assisted this country to transform people's lives. He himself, the Honorable Prime Minister, went on his radio station in my presence and said there's no other philanthropic politician, kind-hearted and loving person. The night of my birthday, I sat in his radio station in the studio when he said so. So he can say I lie again. And yes, man, good, please. We will get to the source of your money one day too. We will get to the source of your money one day too. So let's not get in that, because you had nothing prior to 2014. Good. Mr. Speaker, I will never pretend to be dishonest and say that I have not made mistakes. I will never pretend to be dishonest and say that I have not said and done things that might have offended certain persons and people. But what I can say, Mr. Speaker, with all certainty, from the bottom of my heart, is that we are all human. And every action has an equal and opposite reaction. None of us are without sin. None of us are without sin. But whatever I may have said, Mr. Speaker, whatever I may have done has always been done without any malice or hatred. None whatsoever. And as a Christian of conscience in the healing of grace of redemption, I say to my comrades of labor now is not the time for that. Now is not the time for fighting and bickering. We have a pandemic. We have a country to rebuild. We have lives to protect and to save. I can go off into the sunset, thank God, but I will not. I'm not ready to. And I'm not going to be chased out. I came in peace. I serve in peace, Mr. Speaker, with love and devotion. And I'm saying today, let all the fighting cease. Now is the time for the sons and daughters of labor to bind together. To bind together and consolidate, Mr. Weston, the position of this great party, this great institution in the governance of this country. Not to tear down. We must show leadership. We must show statesmanship. That's why I call upon you to join hands with the member for Barbuda and to resolve all differences for development for the people of Barbuda and for Antigua and for Barbuda. So to be clear, Mr. Speaker, my service to this country as a member of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party and member of Parliament for St. Peter's is rooted in the sacrifices of my parents and my grandparents, man. As stalwart supporters of one of Antigua, of the Antigua Labour Party to improve the quality of all citizens. I come from the bowels of labor and the struggles to perfect this democracy. And in the dark days at the lowest ebb when this Labour Party was in 1968, when the Labour seemed to lose. Nearly 5 decades ago, it was my father, Patrick Michael, who paid the stevedores and longshoremen from his pocket to prevent the PLM and the AWU, which you were part of, Mr. Speaker, at the time, and all the AWU trade union operatives from calling a strike to shut down this country and the port. In the 70s, when my father, Patrick Michael, and the late Staggy Lionel Hurst, and Alistair Thomas, Sydney Baysnote, and Bill Abbott called all the longshoremen and stevedores and paid them to go back to work so the steamships and the cargo ships would come into the port and not to shut this country down. Where were you? Where was I? I wasn't born. When we lost the election in 1971, Lester Bird recalled and he told me on the phone yesterday, and Hugh Marshall Sr., my papa went to all of his sister stores, bought all the red cloth, and lined from Market Street to the bottom where VC Bird buses, both sides, to show the resilience of his commitment to the Labour Party. He was the only employer. He was the only employer who marched every single Labour Day with the Antigua Trades and Labour Union and the ALP. And he marched his 3 picnics toddlers. The only employer, an Arab descendant, not even a black employer, joined with the working class people of this country to show resilience with the Labour Party. And we grew up in the bowels every single Labour Day with Adolphus Freeland, Hugh Marshall, John St. Luce, the late Reuben Harris, all of them. So, Mr. Speaker, I say, only the people of St. Peter's should decide whether I continue as a representative. And only the people of Antigua and Barbuda should decide when I hang up the boots of political life and call it a day. The idea of bullying a faithful, committed, loyal soldier of Labour out of this honorable responsibility is unthinkable. Indeed, it is contrary to the high ideals of love. Where is the love? Where is the forgiveness and human kindness on which our party stands? It no longer exists, but I serve a righteous God and his people in this blessed land. In that cause, I stand firm for health, wealth, progress, peace, order, justice, a level playing field, caring, and an accountable governance. Mr. Speaker, I've taken up enough time. I thank you for listening to me. God bless the honorable members of this House. God bless the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition, all the members. God bless the people of St. Peter's, who I love, and they're part of my family. And I feel for them that I can do nothing for them. Absolutely nothing. But I will continue in this house as long as there's blood in my veins and there's breath in my body to fight for them. God bless the people of Antigua and Barbuda. Thank you.